Hi, I'm Gavin Haney from Latchkey Kid, Manhattan Beach, California. I started off playing bass in a high school punk band, and then after years of forming bands and playing gigs and recording and making albums, evolved into the songwriter and producer that I am today. I play the guitar, the bass, the mandolin, banjo, harmonica, keyboards, anything I can get my hands on. My musical influences would be anyone who writes a great song, anyone who shares their inner world with great lyrics and melodies. There's way too many to name. I'll usually start off with some chords that I like and hum some words to form a melody. It's like a hunk of clay that I'm molding and tweaking, and as the process continues, I'll eventually come up with the form of a song, which then I'll take into the studio and lay down some scratch tracks and begin to establish the sound that I'm going for. And then lastly, I'll do the fine details and edits and eventually the mastering. I first discovered music licensing when some songs were placed in a mountain biking film called The Collective. Later, I got a call from Evan and Martin from Experience Music Group, and then things really started to take off. Music licensing has helped me to reach new fans all around the world, and it helps me to make a living from my music. In 2008, Experience Music placed my song Good Times in a Super Bowl Coca-Cola commercial. The I Love You Man title track placement was also amazing, so thrilled to hear your song up on the big screen. When I'm not in the studio, I like to travel and go surfing. I'll always remember that corny adaptation of the Turtles' Happy Together in that 80s Golden Graham commercial. I'd like to partner with freecreditreport.com or Mentos.
Oh, I got there just at the end. Okay. Uh, okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, hello. So I'm just going to
In a world with great
get myself together here, Evan. And I am. All right. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is my guest, Evan Stein. And Evan and I met each other actually through a women in music organization person. And yeah, so, and it just looked interesting to me to talk with Evan because you guys who know me know that I like business stuff as well as music stuff, and it's always nice to get smarter, isn't it? In fact, I told Evan I'd like to create a workshop for you, you know. So I create, usually it's music workshops, but like for instance, I have a workshop coming up in May with this guy, Mark Winkler, who is a successful songwriter for many years and a singer, and he's just he does good business. So he's going to be doing one and making and releasing music in a digital world, which I think is really valuable to know right now, you know.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. Business is changing a lot.
Yeah. Now tell us what your business is. I mean, I can put up the website. Let me actually I'm going to put up the website for a minute, and here it is. And yeah, so here's Evan's website, and who we are, what we do: branding, licensing, social media, digital strategy, networking. That's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, I definitely want to know who you are and what you do. So tell me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, first and foremost.
Yeah.
My name is Evan Stein, and I'm co-owner of Experience Music Group that I own with my partner, Martin Weiner. And we've had it for 21 years. And
Wow.
the initial idea was, we wanted to have some sort of label. And at the time, this is 21 years ago, everyone that we had met with in the business said, don't get into the label business, that's changing, get into licensing and publishing. And at the time, I didn't really know what music licensing and publishing was. And so we spent another year learning about music licensing and publishing. And along that time, like realized, I'm a child of the 80s. And so I grew up with John Hughes movies. And a lot of the music that he used in his films sort of soundtracked my childhood. And just, very nostalgic and super powerful, like a smell. Take this song takes you back. And so when I realized that was a job that you could find artists and put their music in movies and TV shows and video games and ads, I realized that like, wait, this is something that I love, that I've been passionate about. And so, yeah, we just started signing independent artists, and the first 5 years, a lot of the deals that we did were gratis, and gratis essentially means free. Um, but it was really just to get relationships with music supervisors and to solidify relationships with the artists as well. And so we did a lot of like reality TV stuff early on in TV. And then we started getting TV shows on the CW and movies. And then before you know it, we had songs in Super Bowl commercial
Oh,
and opening movies and big, nationwide ads in the US and Canada and Australia. And yeah, that the sync side of the business took off, and probably about 8 or 9 years into it, we managed our first client, which is Latchkey Kid, and he's a singer songwriter out of Manhattan Beach, and we in managing him sort of stumbled into some other areas that we grew our business in: marketing, branding, imaging, and messaging, and just realized like the importance of having a why as an artist, like
I'm
asking
sorry.
yourself,
A
yeah,
Y, a Y, you mean
yeah,
W-Y, W-H-Y? A
yeah,
Y. It's
yeah,
important to have a Y as an artist.
yes. Why do you get out of bed, and why should anyone care?
Okay, okay. Got it.
Because people don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it, right? Like we don't buy Apple because they make shiny silver phones. We buy them because they think differently. So I just realized that that was something that was missing from artists, and I was going to help them find their why. And that once I did that, I was going to build their brand and image and message off of that why. So everything they communicated via their branding or messaging, brand is the story that you choose to tell the world about what it is that you're doing. It was going to be communicated from that so that it was authentic, it was organic. Because in today's music business, you have to be a storyteller, and you have to give fans a reason to come back to your socials, your website on a weekly or biweekly basis. Like you have to have a running narrative, and so we shifted the business into marketing and branding and imaging and storytelling, and
Yeah.
kind of fell in love with that part of the business. And now it's sort of the bigger part than sync. Sync has sort of become like a spoke in the wheel, and we're trying to build all these spokes and have them moving at the same time.
That's a lot.
Yes.
And I don't think it's because my brain is so full these days that I would need to um, be in a quiet space and really look, at what you're doing. I mean, honestly, at first listen, but I'm always like this. I want to join, I want you to listen to my music. I'm always like that. But really, I do know the value of marketing, period, and I've been, especially as a jazz singer, I've been doing this for a long time for very little money, you know, and now it's even worse because you can't sell your CDs, really. I mean, I'm going to Japan in May. That's where I'm going. So I'll be selling CDs in Japan. But I mean, 50 CDs a trip, maybe, unless I had some kind of big concert. And, even then, do I want to schlep over my little CDs, But not to mention, I have like 15 CDs and I'm finishing four more. But then which CDs do I bring? I could talk to you for a while, Evan, asking you these questions. But also, what it brings to mind immediately is artists, my friends, two of my friends particularly, who are incredible storytellers and incredibly gifted musicians. And I mean, they're at the top of their game. But they're, you know, they've been working on their stories for a while, both of them, a long time. And I just went to see one. It's a guy named Anthony Wilson. He's one of the top jazz guitar players anywhere. And he plays with Diana Krall on the road. He's done that for about 25 years, maybe. Anyway, but I mean, really, his claim to fame is he's friggin' great. He plays different styles. He's amazing. But also, might have been about 10 or 15 years ago, he started writing and singing. And his dad was from Mississippi. And he started going to Mississippi and doing this deep dive into the family and the area and history. And he found that he really loved it. And I just saw him this week. And it was a small group. I mean, guitar, piano, bass, drums, and violin. And everybody was playing exquisitely. It was almost like they were playing the least that they could for the greatest effect, which for me is heaven. And but every song, the whole night, it was like I was in a fairy tale or like I was in a movie for that song. I totally saw what he saw. And it was amazing. It was a really amazing night. So somebody like that who really, 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 really has a strong story, is that I'm guessing in your mind that is the best to have something like that.
Yeah, I mean, so when I was younger, I would have to go up to Tower Records on Sunset at midnight for a release and hope they had a copy. And I would bring it home and I would live with it and study the liner notes and who did the art, who produced it, who played on the album, and really, spend weeks with that album. And in today's music world, there's so many other things pulling people's attention away. There's still families and marriages and school and jobs, but there's also 24-hour news cycle, and there's YouTube and TikTok and Netflix and Hulu and Snapchat, and I can go on. That you really need to give someone a compelling reason to spend time with your brand or your music. And this is where I really truly believe storytelling comes in, because not only are you painting a picture with the music that you're playing, but you're also painting a picture of, like, if you're talking about the song in between or before you play the song, you're telling a story about it. What inspired you? What are some of the, creative pieces? Where do they come from? And I think it's just those story pieces that leave in people's minds and allow people to find a connection to them. And so if somebody loves jazz in this case, and in your mind, sort of a fairy tale, it was painting this fairy tale for you, he sort of painted this land and took you to this far off land. And that's a visual that you'll never forget. And now when you go back to his music or you go back to his brand or whatnot, you're going to have that connection. Now, if he didn't storytell, maybe it wouldn't have taken you there and the connection wouldn't have been as strong. But you really need to have a solid connection with fans because they have too many choices. There's too many other things to choose from. So how do you get them coming back? And how do you get them, engaged. It's just the importance of having a running narrative. And, for people that have been in the music business a long time and have a lot of songs and have a lot of stories to tell, um, those are the ones I feel like could do really, really well because people want to have those stories. We're all looking to connect in different ways. And if I am an artist, whether it's a musician or a painter or filmmaker, whatever it is, and I'm looking for some sort of inspiration, there's no better way to share inspiration via stories.
Yeah. So, so if an artist was interested to get either an education from you, or actually hire you to work, what would they do at first?
Yeah, so the first thing that we do, I mean, it's almost like a mix of like coaching and therapy, honestly, is we sit down and
I love
yeah,
that.
it's we look at your why and I have them write down their why. It's a page, 3 pages, 5 pages. Why do you get out of bed and why should anyone care?
Yeah.
Because that's at the center of everything that you do, not only in the music business, but in life. It's like it's a Japanese word, it's called ikagi. It's a purpose for living, for waking up and living. And
Hmm.
that that's what people are going to connect to is that why. So many artists, when they do that, they go all the way back to what inspired them to get into music, to play, to write. And that's really where the storytelling begins with these artists is on those early stories. So I have one artist right now that I'm working with, and his theme is to be in service. He's in service to his fans, or in service to music or the environment or the universe. And a lot of what he does is based on service, and that's sort of his why in a sense, and touches everything else that he does in many different ways. So yeah, we start off with the why, and then I have a whole bunch of branding and imaging and messaging exercises that we do, and it's sort of all derived from the why. Like when we come up with your keywords or your brand statement, all of that is built off of the work that we do with why.
Okay. So that's how a person would start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then uh, is it the whole package or nothing, or is it offered in certain
Yeah, I mean, I do. So it's 3 month program. It's once a week for an hour, and we get on the phone and we go through the program, and then I give you homework at the end of each call that you prepare for the next week. And
oh,
then after that 3 months is done, if that's put into play, like website, social media, the branding, imaging, and messaging, there's a second part which is sort of fan growth. And to me, in today's world, a lot of fan growth is built on lifestyle connection. So, and I realized this going back with Latchkey Kid when we managed him with 2008. His music was showing up in mountain biking videos on YouTube. He's like a singer, songwriter, strummy, Jack Johnson, Jason Mraz type. And my initial thought was, wait, maybe we should ask to take this down because they didn't license it. But then I started reading the comments, and the comments were saying, "Oh, who is this artist? I love him. I now listen to this when I ride." And that's really when it hit me. I was like, wait, they're associating their bike ride with his music because it was used in this content that was created. And what a powerful moment that was. And so my artist, Gavin, from Latchkey Kid, he also surfs and he skateboards and he snowboards. And I said to him, I said, look at these comments. I said, have you ever thought about going to some of your friends that are professional surfers or skateboarders, snowboarders, and giving them your music to use in the videos? And it was so eye-opening at that moment. And he went and did that, that we built his fan base out of that extreme sports niche. And that was all through a shared love of lifestyle.
okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, hmm, interesting. Um, yeah, it reminds me of, yeah. Did you ever know what was his name? Tim Sweeney?
It sounds familiar. His name sounds familiar.
Yeah, you would have been friends with him. Tim Sweeney, he passed away, but Tim Sweeney, gosh, I don't know how long. Well, had to be about 20 years ago. He was very smart guy. He had been an A&R when he was very young, and then got out of A and like a proper A&R and just did stuff on his own. He had kind of these conventions where people would show up and they'd, it'd be like, hey, wake up and look what you're doing and let's create something. And he had incredible ideas. I remember one time I had him at a workshop here, and it was really interesting. These two girls were like sitting outside on a break and they were saying, yeah, well, his ideas are good, but nah, I don't think I could ever do that. And it was like, oh man. So they were interested, but they didn't have the confronting ability to confront what he was saying because he had great ideas. And I mean, really just great. And what you just said, yeah, he would say, find other what do you call it? Like other businesses to promote yourself through. A cooking show,
Yes.
and so ideas like that, which I thought was great. I have it on my to-do list, my 12-page to-do list, but which I haven't looked at for a while. But anyway, I just thought that's a really good idea. Find other business. Businesses is kind of the wrong word. Communities, maybe. You know.
Yeah. And
You know.
it's really about finding a shared love of lifestyle. And so what we would do, going back to Gavin, is we would go to, at the time, I'm not sure if they were called influencers, content creators that were making videos about surfing or skateboarding, and we would
Yeah.
say, hey, would you mind using my song behind it, and I'll give it to you for free. And that song would be introduced to their followers,
Yeah.
and that's how we would pick up new fans. And you know, in my mind today, it's hard to go after a similar artist and their fans. I just feel like the music space is too crowded.
Yeah.
That you have to, I call it building a bridge. You have to build a bridge to, like, let's just say it's cooking. Cooking is something that you're interested in. So you, Cathy, the person, would go into the cooking community. Hi, I'm Cathy. I love to cook, Greek food, Chinese food, whatever it is, and you get a conversation going. And then you say, oh, by the way, when I'm cooking, that's when I get creatively inspired to write music. And that's a soft introduction to the music. And now that you've made a connection with this person over cooking, a shared love of cooking, then you introduce your music, and then you walk them back over the bridge to your artist page. And once you have that, and this is where the branding and imaging and messaging comes in, is like, hopefully at that point on your Instagram page or Facebook page, there are videos of you cooking and sharing that love, right?
Yeah.
Cooking
Yeah.
and how it ties into music. And so when they come to that page, they see, oh, I see her cooking. That's so neat. And she's humming ideas or whatever it is. And that's that ongoing narrative that I talked about. That's that storytelling where now you've connected with this person, and you both love something, and they found your music through a shared love of cooking. And they have a reason to come back
Yeah.
weekly and connect with you and see what you're up to.
Yeah. So you guys listening, I love this guy. Don't you like Evan? I love your ideas. Yeah, your approach really rings true to me. And I mean, I'm known as a good business person, but I don't like to be obnoxious, you know. And but I like when everybody is happy, everybody's doing something together or noticing you because you're doing something you love and it looks good, I like that kind of business recognition mostly. Um, but yeah, so your approach is really appealing to me.
We want it to be organic and not feel
Yeah,
forced.
yeah,
Um, And like I said, we live in a world today where everyone's sort of at home on their computers and they're looking to connect in
Yeah.
authentic ways. And so, how do you give someone an opportunity to connect with you or your music in an authentic way, not just based around the music, but
Yeah.
based around like, you know, I like to use Billie Eilish as an example. She started off when she was 13, and she was so open about what she was going through as a tween or a teen, whether it's anxiety or body dysmorphia or whatever issues that she was going through. And she was able to connect with other girls her age because she was a sounding board for them. And some of the things that she did were so smart. She would wear baggy clothes, these really big baggy clothes, and force you as a fan to not define her by the way that she looked, but by her storytelling, her singing, her performing, her songwriting. In a world where girls are bombarded with, other girls in bikinis or doing, AI face or whatever it may be on Instagram and constantly comparing them. Here comes Billy, and she says, "No, don't look at what I'm wearing. Like, look at what I'm good at: my songwriting, my singing, my performing." And it was such a fresh take for young girls
Yeah.
to connect to, and so smart on her end because she was being real and authentic, and she wasn't hiding the fact that she had anxiety. She wasn't hiding that she was afraid of the dark, or she's,
Yeah.
and that's what I feel like that's one of the reasons why she was able to communicate that through her songwriting, through her artwork, through her performances, live performances. Um, and I think that's one of the reasons why she was so successful. Taylor Swift is another example. She's
Yeah.
so authentic with her fans.
Uh-huh.
And talk about community. I'm not sure if you know much about Taylor, but like I took my daughter to her concert.
Yeah, I hear a lot about her. I mean, she's right. She's fabulous. I don't really know her stuff very well, you know. But
She has
anyway,
these
you were saying,
bracelets for
yeah,
all these kids, and the bracelets are either words or phrases from her songs. You know what the kids do at their concerts? They trade bracelets. Like she nailed community. No one does community better than Taylor Swift.
uh,
It was such a It was at SoFi Stadium. Kathy, I've never been to a concert and felt so safe,
oh
ever.
wow,
And I've been to so many shows, and this woman created such a safe, accepting atmosphere for these young kids,
yeah,
and boys, girls, cisgender, bi, gay, didn't matter.
yeah,
Didn't matter who you were, what you did. She created a safe place and performed like a professional athlete for almost 4 hours. I was blown away. Just blown away.
wow,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah, it reminds me too of Kelly Clarkson, is it, with the
Mhm.
TV show?
Yeah.
I happened to be in someone's house who didn't have, you know, HBO or anything, and they were watching Kelly Clarkson, and I was like, I was very impressed. What a nice person, and like she has so many segments on that are helping people, you know. I mean, I was impressed with her. Very nice, very well spoken, and I'm sure her why is very strong.
In a world where, especially in the music business, people don't help each other.
Yeah,
In 21 years that I've done this, every interview, every meeting, I kid you not, Kathy, I've used the word help. Not enough people help each other.
yeah,
They just don't. So, like, what a wonderful thing,
yeah,
Again, going back to Taylor, she's so embraced because she's accessible, she's real, and she helps. She helps her fans. She helps her fans connect. She writes about from her heart. Do you know she's the most prolific songwriter of all time? Did you know that?
I did know that. I
And
That's amazing.
right?
Yeah, amazing.
And again, what a great role model for other girls that want
Yeah,
to get into this business and feel like, they don't need to show this or act like this. Or, I mean, Taylor, is just, so wholesome. And I love that she's,
yeah,
can do that and share that with other girls. I have a daughter, so,
yeah,
it really hits home for me.
yeah, yeah. Two things I have to ask. Well, one is just a comment that I feel good about in my own development. At some point a few years ago, um, I realized I really don't want students to show up who just want to be, a good R&B singer, and they're not thinking. I just don't want to teach students like that anymore. So I redesigned my website with who I am, which is very spiritually minded, and that's what I did. I redesigned my website, and now when I get like reaches who don't know me even, it's it's along those lines. They're like ready for, you know, opening and learning. That's, to me, if I had one student a year like that, it would be great. So that feels good, and that kind of goes along with my why probably. But the other thing I'm curious about, and to be truthful, I probably am a little apathetic, as a jazz person, but I mean, it doesn't stop me from doing it, or supporting people, but still, I think, oh God. But so what do you think? I know you have different genres that you work with. Do you work with jazz people, or is your point of view of jazz a little different? Or just can you talk
Yeah.
about that?
Well, yeah, of course we're with jazz artists because in the sync world, we'll get calls for scenes at a jazz club or it's at a jazz bar
Yeah.
or the vibe is, a need for jazzy music in the background. So definitely. Um, but I don't, there's an artist, her name's Leifei. Do you know who Leifei? Laufey. Look her up. She's Icelandic and she is probably a
This is
Gen,
not the young girl, right?
yeah, young girl, and she's
Oh, yes, I have my friend who's kind of a producer type of guy. He played that, and he said his daughter is 20 or 21, and he said this is her favorite artist now. Incredible.
yeah, and she's taking jazz and classical and introducing it to the modern day
Yeah.
kids, and
And kind of
it's
Brazilian too, which is,
yes,
yeah, she's
yeah,
very good.
very very good and a
Yeah.
very good songwriter, and so I feel like in terms of bringing jazz and classical back into this generation, like you
Yeah.
need artists like that.
Yeah.
And you know what's so great about what she does is she mixes modern day pop elements. So it's not like
Yeah.
she's either doing jazz or doing straight classical. Like she's thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And she used social media, especially TikTok, to really grow her fame. She has a twin, and she includes her twin in the videos. They're very
Oh.
cute. Yeah.
uh,
And she
oh,
again, very real, very authentic, and I'm a huge fan. Huge fan.
that's cool. How does your daughter like her?
Yeah, my daughter knows of her, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like, what a great opportunity for me to introduce other jazz and classical,
Yeah.
yeah, via that artist. It was similar to like musical theater. I love musical theater. My daughter got into musical theater, I think, through six, but just, having that young connection allowed me to introduce her to other musical theater. And I just think it's so important these days that kids know about jazz and classical and musical theater because there's so much great music out there
Yeah.
that they'll if they don't hear they'll never know. I mean it's got to be so much tougher for just a straight jazz artist or a straight classical musician to make it in today's music business because the demand isn't there.
Yeah. Um, sorry, I keep sending people to messages to people to listen today.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's all for you. But yeah. Um, well, you're I mean, obviously licensing and publishing is part of your experience. And I mean, to ask you what you think of, the future of CDs is kind of, like duh, I think, right? Because it is, you'd probably say, yeah, licensing and publishing, right?
Well, vinyl has had a resurgence,
I know, that's so weird.
and I
I
think
think it's amazing.
well, people want to hold something. You have to remember this generation grew up with songs on Spotify and Apple. They never held anything.
Yeah,
It was just a piece of data on their iPhone or their
yeah,
iPod.
yeah.
So most of these kids, I think I read 80% of kids that buy vinyl, they don't even play it. They just buy it to display it,
Huh,
which tells me not only the power of the brand connection, but the power of artwork.
yeah.
Again, I always use the Kiss. I grew up loving Kiss, and they had a album Love Gun, and they were in their outfits, and there was all these like women looking at them, and I just loved that cover art growing up, and I remember how powerful it was. And Kiss is so funny because with the music on, they're rock with the makeup on, they're rock gods, but when the makeup comes off, they're a horrible rock band. And to me, it's such a great study on like the power of again branding and putting on this sort of face.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. I always think about them when I think about the like cover art, album art. Again, part of storytelling, part of the lore, that type of thing. So yeah, I think physical media will pick up. I think what scares me is artificially intelligent created music. I just saw a tweet this morning from a music supervisor who, I don't know, there was some ad campaign, I don't remember who it was going to use AI music for their ad campaign. And the supervisor was like, I will never license AI music, so don't worry about it. And but you can see what's coming, what's happening is as more companies let people go to use AI to be more efficient. I think music libraries are going to be in trouble because people will be able to use AI to create library music, jazz music, classical music, and sooner rather than later it will be pretty good. And then it becomes what happens to the artist. And this gets back to storytelling. So this is one thing AI won't be able to do is give it the human touch, the storytelling touch. Music's already so commoditized. It's that it's almost like a marketing driver at this point. It's what else about that artist can you connect with? So to me, it all comes back to storytelling, and if you take a sort of much higher look at that, it's community. Like how do you grow community as an artist, and how do you create community? And I think that the super fans they're part of those communities. Those are the ones that are really going to keep artists going today. The super fans.
Yeah. I think that's possibly where I have a little bit of apathy because I've been doing it so long and um, uh, just seems like, well, I mean, I probably am just have a different, I have a different persona in the community. Um, I'm kind of the venue creator and, the teacher and the helper, and I'm always there. So it's not like I do one show every 6 months and people are like, oh, let's support her. And when people come, especially people who I like, like my friends and fans, they love it. But then, it's challenging. You can't just have your friends and family come out to see you. So, yeah, so in therein lies probably my frustration. Really, like totally. I don't think I'm frustrated. Otherwise, I can create. I have great musicians to play with. I have products. I can travel. I can do a gig whenever I want. It's that little area, and I always thought about, well, it's marketing. Marketing is the whole thing. I mean, and I guess you could break it down into various parts, but right? It's marketing,
Yeah,
basically.
that's all it is. Again,
Yeah,
it comes
yeah,
back to storytelling. I mean,
yeah,
it's what makes you unique and
yeah.
remarkable. Think about the word remarkable. It means remark upon, and
It
not
means what?
remark upon. So for an artist today, in my opinion, they need to be unique and remarkable. So what are you doing that's unique, and what are you doing that's remarkable?
Yeah. Huh.
And I just, not enough artists take the time. They're just, well, let me get in the studio and I wrote these songs, and then I'll release them, and they're not really thinking about a plan, or they're not really thinking about what am I going to do to drive fans and cultivate fans,
Yeah.
uh, have a relationship with fans. And again, it's you really have to look at it as creating community.
Yeah.
For you as a jazz artist, people that love jazz, um, why couldn't you create a safe space for people to come and connect over a love for jazz, right? Maybe in that community, people are making new friends. You know how hard it is to make new friends as you get older, and or a romantic connection over a shared love of jazz. Such a powerful thing, and you're gonna see the explosion of micro communities from what we had with social media, whether it was Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. It's all been, the algorithm has taken over all of those platforms. So there is no social connection anymore on those platforms. Nobody's seeing your posts. It's getting buried. And you're a slave to the algorithm. There's going to be a backlash where people will create communities. You're already seeing it with the younger generation. They're creating communities, social communities, that there is no algorithm and there is no news. And it's just a place for people to connect because we're humans and we need connection.
Yeah.
And to be able to connect over a shared love of something, in my opinion, is extremely powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Are these people connecting on different platforms? I mean, they're making different or live.
No, I mean, well, so they're a younger generation are creating new platforms that younger people are connecting on, and I think like I worked in Web3 for a minute about a year ago, and with NFTs and blockchain, and that was really eye-opening to me from the standpoint of like how they did community in real life, whether it was at a convention or some type of show, and that like the importance of having community, and what it meant and how they got behind each other and support each other. I never really saw that in the music business in the 21 years that I was in it. And so it's something that it's important to me, and I try and foster, and I would love to foster. And probably one of the reasons why I connected with you and wanted to come on here is I try and reach out to as many people as I can, because I feel like we all need each other in a certain way, to grow this community. Because I'm obsessed with music, and music to me isn't just some background noise. And I feel like with the younger generation, they're multitasking and music's just on in the background. It's just something that's there. They're not connecting with it. So I feel like part of my mission is to help them reconnect to the music through community, through storytelling, through, you know, hearing the story of these artists that wrote these songs and how they got there, and being on the road, and like why jazz. And did you watch the Little Richard documentary, by the way?
I don't think I did.
Yeah, I highly, highly recommend it. It's
Huh.
so fascinating. First of all, he's the king. He was the king of rock and roll. Like he created rock and roll for all intents purposes.
Yeah.
It was so interesting, and the reason why I bring this up is the importance of knowing these stories of these artists. Is not only did he, he took a little bit from here, there, and everywhere, and people did that, but he created rock and roll. But he was also one of the first artists, and he's African American, to go and drag, paint his eyes. He was in the closet for years and years. And it's such a fascinating take to learn about his younger years and how he would cross dress when it was not even acceptable, even in the African American community, and how the music that he created came out of that. And
Yeah.
so I guess the point that I'm making is like, these stories are so important for people to hear,
Yeah.
because this is what makes the music. It's not just something that's a artificially intelligent language model creates. It's human emotion, you
Yeah,
know, blood,
yeah,
sweat, and tears. And again, the human connection to it.
yeah. Did you happen to see the Wayne Shorter documentary?
No. Mm-mm.
I highly recommend that. It's in two parts. He was a friggin' saint, kind of, you know. I mean, it was just, and his history was beautiful. And I actually haven't seen the second half. I only saw the first half, but it's really beautiful, and the music and it's really, it's heartwarming and inspirational, and brings you, you know, to a really beautiful space.
Those stories are magical. The Bee Gees documentary, how that mend a broken heart. Like, man, that was
Yeah, I heard about that. I haven't seen that one
so
either.
so heavy on so
Yeah,
many levels. I had no idea that they did with the Beatles. Like they came along the same time as the Beatles, and one of the other brothers was singing in the songs. And it's so funny. I just watched the show on Netflix, and they licensed one of those old Bee Gees songs that sounds like a Beatles song, and it just put a smile on my face. But the story of brothers, and how they found disco, and that created that disco vibe, and how that sort of, after so many years, it shot them to the top. Labels don't stay behind artists like
yeah,
that. They don't develop artists.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't even know if we could have a Bee Gees in today's music world.
yeah, yeah. It would just be by luck.
Like, would the Bee Gees want to be creating content on TikTok? I don't think so,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's no mystery. The mystery's gone.
yeah,
Think about the artists that you and I grew up with, all the mystery.
yeah,
And I know everything, and I just think it's too much.
yeah,
Um, and so I feel like, you're going to see sort of a backlash, and people will dial it back.
yeah. Um, oh, yeah, I was going to tell you a funny story. This was a long time ago. I had a friend who, as a side note, was a very bad stutterer, but he played piano and sang, and he was fine when he was singing. And he made a living like traveling around the world, as like a kind of a cocktail pianist and singer, right? Mostly on the jazz side. And so he was in Europe, and his manager over there suggested, let's see if I remember this story. He suggested that he take this song and put it to a disco beat, and it became number one overnight.
Wow.
He made a shitload of money, and he became something like the spokesperson for the stutterers of America. Because
Wow.
he really did. He had a bad stutter, you know. But there you go. I mean, that's not exactly what you were talking about, but things can happen. You can
Sure. I
you
mean,
can go along with an idea.
like, in today's world, the positive side of being able to the internet and social media is, for him, if he were to do that today, imagine all the stutterers that he could connect with and show
Yeah,
them, look, I had this issue, but when I perform, it didn't bother me, and look what I was able to do with my performing.
yeah,
Beacon of light for anyone struggling with stuttering. And that's the side of it that I do love, and it's a side that I try and tell artists when I do consult with them. Look, if you've gone through something and you've struggled through something,
yeah,
and you've gotten through it, or you're getting through it, or working your way through it, and you're able to channel that into songwriting or performing,
yeah,
share that with the world. There's so many people that need to hear that want to hear that are
yeah,
looking for a light at the end of the tunnel. And so many artists today, they're so focused on hitting the grand slam, when really it's about hitting singles and doubles, and starting at that point, and making connections with fans and people over something that you've accomplished yourself. because those comments that you get, oh man, I heard your story and it changed my life, or the song saved my life, or like that's really why it's worth it at the end of the day. Is to build those.
Yeah, that's so true. I happened to write this song that was really connected, and it was I had two sisters who passed away, and they were twins. They were 4 years older than me, and we grew up totally singing all the time, and one played piano, and my dad was a sax player, and my mom was a singer. So, and one day I just, actually, I was in the garden, and this song came to me, and you know, it's just one of those songs that lives in the right space. You know, it can't help it. It is. It's like from the muse or whatever. And so I recorded it, and um, just a few weeks ago, my friend called, and she left me a message. Her twin sister had died, not recently, but she had died, and she was just feeling kind of low, and she knew she had heard my song before. She put my song on, and she just wept for an hour, and she was calling me to thank me. I mean, you know,
That's why we do what we do.
yeah, yeah,
That's worth its weight in gold.
yeah,
Um, and again, you're gardening. Like you're gardening, you're doing something you probably love.
yeah,
Another community that you can connect with is
yeah,
gardeners. And you somehow were creatively inspired to write a song about your twin sisters that had passed. And look where it took it, to a friend. And like this is why it's so important to share these stories and connect with people over these stories, because we've all gone through some sort of loss. We all go through grief, and we're looking for other people to connect to on that and hear their stories, because it helps us. It helps us inside, and that's why music is so powerful. And
yeah,
stories are so powerful. Such a great example of
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
yeah. So, kind of switching subjects a little bit. So, I usually ask this from musicians, but I mean, this is a perfect question for you too. What do you do every day? How do you plan your day? How do you live life? I mean, and that actually, now that I think about it, I mean, I do a lot, and I think that's why this list of 12 pages remains a bit unlooked at, except when I have time to do nothing, which is I have to make that. And so how your head must be very full, both with creative ideas and also the doingness of what you're doing, and helping people and stuff. So what do you do every day?
Yeah, I don't really have a Monday or a Friday. I love what I do. I'm very enthusiastic and passionate about it, and every day is different. There really isn't a set schedule. Mind you, there are days that I'll have calls with clients, but it depends sort of, what I'm feeling and what I want to work on. I mean, I have other work that I'm involved with even outside of music, that takes a part of my day. I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and so when I have them, I try and spend time with them, pick them up from school, go to the sporting events. So every work day is different. It's really just, I when I was younger, I worked at like Fox, and I worked at a lot of corporate companies, and I just knew that I never wanted to do that later in life. I really wanted to do my own thing and control my own destiny, because I didn't want to be a slave to the corporate world, and I knew that I had so much more to offer. So I really don't consider my work day work. It's kind of fun for me, and it doesn't start at a certain time and it doesn't end at a certain time. Of course, when I'm with my kids at night, I try not to answer emails or whatnot. But um, it's just it's really, I think it comes down to like moments of flow, and being in those moments of flow. And that's really what's, what I care about, what's important to me.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what's your favorite music?
It depends on mood and, I mean, if I had to pick a genre, an all-time genre, it would probably be rock,
Hmm.
but I listen to everything.
Yeah.
You know, uh, this weekend I was on a bike ride, and Spotify has a neat little feature. It's called DJ. And what it does is it goes through your music and it feeds you music based on what you listen to. And I grew up loving like like hair bands, cheesy like Bon Jovi and Motley Crue, really cheesy stuff. And there was like a section of like four like heartbreak songs. I think
Yeah.
one of them was like Almost Paradise, the Footloose soundtrack, and one of them was I'll Be There For You by Bon Jovi. And it was such a moment, like speaking of flow, of like nostalgic flow, because, it brought me back to junior high. And I just felt like, and I'm sitting there on my bike and I'm singing the songs, and it was so joyful. And now are those stuff that I'll listen to every day? No, but I mean, at that moment, I think it was pretty special.
Yeah. Yeah.
I try and listen to just, constantly discover new music.
Yeah.
Although I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that podcasts were taking over as well.
Oh,
And I listen to more and more podcasts. So, we only have so many hours in a day.
I
And
know.
that inherently bothers me because I work in the music business. So if I'm doing that, then how
Yeah.
many other people are not discovering music by listening to podcasts?
Yeah.
And I love to read. I just like to stay creatively engaged. I always love to just, I always want to be learning. And just whether it's something that I'm reading or hearing a story about a certain artist or, like I love music. I like giving music recommendations and I like getting them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, being surprised.
This morning, when I was putting on my makeup, I was listening to Rick
Uh-huh.
Beto, however you pronounce. He was, he was, extolling about Keith Jarrett and this particular one record, which had the most beautiful music in the world for 2 minutes, and it was gorgeous. And he went through it several times, and saying why it was so gorgeous. He's an old friend of his too. Actually, I've seen longer interviews with him, but it was beautiful. The music. I mean, Keith Jarrett, is beautiful. And this moment it was improvisation, and it had really beautiful traveling through kind of almost different genres, just within this 2 minutes. It was really nice. Um, you know, every now and then I listen to him because he can be pretty cool. He's a good interviewer. Um, and yeah, I used to listen. I haven't done it for so long. I just haven't had the time to listen to Alan Alda's podcasts. Have you ever heard those?
I haven't, but I've read good things.
They're cool. Yeah, he talks to scientists, actors, mostly scientists, and just has like these kind of conversations, really regular and kind of fascinating, really good. But yeah, I have my particular, YouTube things that, especially if I'm putting on my makeup, which takes, 7 minutes or something, I'll click it on, and try and get into that conversation. Um, yeah, so, and I have much music that I really want to listen to. However, I, I need to work on my music, so that's for me. I don't get to it all the time because of that. So I really have to make time. And again, I'm not like we're speaking about. I'm not sure how many people can do that, can or have the concept of that. I have to make time to listen to new music. I just don't know.
It's so easy to fill your time with things during the day
Yeah,
and not know where the time went. uh, I have a hard time just sitting still and being quiet. That's a struggle for me. Because there's so much going on in my head, or work
Yeah.
life, podcasts, or music, or reading. But stillness, I feel like, is something that I would love to work on and be better at.
Yeah, last night in my moment of non-sleeping, I got up and I had started reading a book that I had by Deepak Chopra about Ayurvedic medicine.
Okay.
I have a chronic cough that I've had for many years, and so I'm always looking for some avenue, help. Um, so yeah, I picked up this book again that I had in my shelf about Ayurvedic, and let's see, what was I going to tell you? What did you just say before?
Oh, just stillness and
Oh, stillness. Yeah. So one of the things, he has these certain things to balance out the doshas, which, there's like three doshas, and you're a particular type. You were born a particular type, but then you have different balances all your life. If you're unhealthy, then one or more is really out of balance. So, there's like six things that you can do in general to help yourself towards health. And one is stillness, meditation, whatever. And yeah, that is, a commitment. I mean, and it doesn't take long. You could sit outside for 5 minutes and it would be fine. But it's a commitment, and you just have to want to do it.
we're so used to like being bombarded with so much information that really isn't healthy for us.
Yeah.
And it's so insane how it becomes hard to disconnect from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5 minutes outside, I'm totally there with you.
Yeah. I want to do it. Do I get to it all the time? No. I want to do it. I find it difficult to do the same thing every day. Um, you know, um, yeah, I'm good at it for a little while. I had I have recently looked up this woman, Carla, something like Carla Basinger. Do you know that name?
I don't.
Let's see. I want to just tell you what her name is. I'm curious. Um, I have many tabs opened on my Chrome. It's let's see. Her name is Carla. I don't know how you pronounce her name. Beisinger, Biesinger, and she's actually. I found her on Instagram. I thought she sounded pretty cool, so I signed up for her information, and because I'm not on Instagram a lot, and of course, my inclination is to go, oh, yeah, I should be doing that. And I mean, it's pretty easily mapped out very well. And she has a lot of people who have been happy with the results and stuff. But the fact of the matter is that I'm not great at doing the same thing every day. I get on my email, I usually get on Facebook, but I don't get on the scroll to Facebook. And I wonder how many people do what I do. I go on my own personal profile, you
Okay.
know. And so, but if I get on the scroll, of course, then I see what I'm missing. But it's time consuming. It
Yeah.
pulls you in, it sucks you in.
Yeah.
So, and Instagram, TikTok, I never do. And, I know there's kind of a whole mindset to TikTok because it's kind of shorter content, right, that you want to do than Instagram or Facebook. Um,
What
I'm
is
just saying, me, I just find it difficult to do the same thing every day. But I mean, to move ahead, you really probably have to.
Is that what Cathy talks about, or what does she talk about?
Carla, yeah, she's talking about first, like, well, I'm kind of closer to the beginning of the whole course, but she talks about content and also how the page even looks. You know, like how does your Instagram look? You know, is it an attractive page profile and stuff? And um, she actually there was a very good questionnaire that she puts you through in the beginning of the course. And yeah, it's one of those questionnaires that asks questions that you think about. You know, it's like, oh, like the why for you. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, interesting. So, but again, you know, just because of life and everything, I haven't even paid attention like I want to for that course, you know. So I guess it's just for us all out here trying to do our thing. It's just what can we what can we sign on for to that will interest us enough to be committed because we all have commitments every day. I mean, we do.
Yes, yes.
So what is it? What is interesting enough? What resonates with us enough to make us committed? You know, and or another thing that I think about sometimes is, um, well, I could see this one workshop or conversation or podcast. I could scope out some time for that to maybe hear something that would inspire me somehow. I think that's something that people think about too. And like my workshops, I hope that people feel like that. It's like, oh, there's, you know, this is cool. Um, every now and then, you know, in the old days, like, let's see, when did it all start changing? Probably, well, you know, when online stuff started happening more, what was it, like 18 years ago or something? You know, it started really revving up, right?
Yes,
Before
yeah.
that, yeah, before that, my workshops were really good, like attended. And
Mhm.
I not only did I do workshops, but I have visiting artists do workshops, so I would present them. And yeah, like over 20 people would be a good showing for a workshop.
Mhm.
Then when everything started, you know, you could get a workshop online, you know, and then my workshops, like now, 8 or 10 is kind of a good showing, you know.
Right.
But so sometimes I'm really surprised that people don't reach out for it. You know, whatever it is. I had a friend come in from Detroit a month or two ago, and uh, you know, she's been working, booking herself and working for her own career for 50 years.
Wow.
And she's very successful at what she does. And she really is a good business person. And as far as I'm concerned, worth listening to, you know, definitely worth listening to. And she's very generous with her information. And so I put out this workshop. I said what, you know, what she is.
Mhm.
And the workshop was like for a really cheap amount, you could come to the workshop and have a conversation personally about your career. And she would give you suggestions.
Okay.
You know, I thought, wow, yeah, that's a no brainer. People are going to come. One person. I
Wow.
was so surprised. It kind of blew me away. I was really, I was disappointed in this community. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who are, uh, I wouldn't call them super professionals. You know, they're either beginners or they're um, mid professionals, you know, kind of working on their stuff. Why, to me, why wouldn't you show up for something like that? I mean, that's a no brainer, you know?
I agree.
But okay, so again, and I told you Mark Winkler's having this one on how to make your music and how to sell your music, what to do with it in a digital world. I mean, if you don't see the value in that, wow, you know, I mean, come on. Uh, Everybody knows that CDs aren't being sold, so what's the next step for you? Um, I forget why I started on this whole ranting.
And I think it came from stillness.
Oh gosh, yeah. Let me be still for a moment.
Right?
I guess it's commitment, right? Commitment, time commitment. I guess that's where it started. Yeah. What is going to excite you enough to get you committed to do actions that you, you know, would help you. I won't even say you need to do because that's kind of putting the pressure on. But just if you want to get to point B, you have to do the steps in A. You know, now, there could be A1 and A2, and you can choose, but still, you have to go through this pathway to get to B. You know, what do you say to people? Do you have people who show up for as clients or prospective clients who I won't say disappoint you, but who say, um, "Well, I really can't do that," or they say, "Yeah, I can do that," and then they don't, or
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. Like a good number of them, think they can commit to it and have a hard time doing it. A couple that I'm working with now, surprisingly, and I've been with one guy for 10 years. It's been amazing. That I still consult for. Even he struggles sometimes, but I'm with two now that are pretty committed and have really applied the work, and you can see the change. But yeah, when you can take a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. And so I try and vet that on early on before I start working with them to see how dedicated they are. But you know, there probably more times than not, I'll work with someone who will do all the work and then they won't put it into action in another 3 months. We'll finish up and they won't continue the work, and it's frustrating. I think it's frustrating to me, but you know, as long as I know that I've done my best to help them and put them on their way, I can't force them to do that. So I try not to take it personal, and I've gotten better over the years. But I really only try and work with people that I feel like are gonna do the work and continue to do the work.
yeah,
Because otherwise it doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
And I have that conversation. I'll have that conversation. I'm only gonna work as hard as you're gonna work. That's what I say to them. The
yeah,
harder you work, the harder I'll work.
yeah,
And because we're gonna inspire each other through this process.
yeah,
Like I said, it's like therapy and coaching. It's a very you really have to open up to each other to get the most out of the work. And so it's not something it's you have to get uncomfortable.
yeah,
My favorite quote is by a woman named Susan David, and she has a great TED talk. If you ever get a moment,
yeah.
emotional agility. But her quote is, "Discomfort is the price of admission for a meaningful life." And I just absolutely love that from so many levels. One is if you're not meeting challenges on a day-to-day basis, you're not living life. Like living life is meeting challenges. That's what life's about.
Yeah,
And then just the whole idea of the importance of becoming uncomfortable to get somewhere. I think for me it resonated because for so many years I didn't want to get uncomfortable and I just wanted to be comfortable. And I wanted life to be this straight line. I didn't want it to be like this. So I thought early on, well, if I can control it and just have it be like this, everything will be fine. Well, you lose a job, you get a divorce,
yeah.
you know it, the rug's pulled out from under you. And even though someone passes away and it's hard in the beginning, but then you look at it and see why it's meant to be and why it's in your life and embrace it a bit differently. I think it changes so many things.
I
It's
agree very much so. Yeah, I think it's might be Eckhart Tolle who says this, but the um, the failures in your life or the losses in your life are a actually should be welcome because that is showing you what needs to be repaired, you know. So, with that point of view, you can move ahead and yeah, there's no such thing as status quo. It does there that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's either up or down. And if the better you know how to ride the wave, the better it is. I actually wrote this little book during the pandemic that I had been thinking about for years. I noticed that the exact same lesson in vocal technique, singing jazz, and life were the same.
Which
The
is,
exact same lesson, whatever it was.
oh,
Like
okay.
as an example, communication, the idea of communication. You need communication in life. You need that flow. Uh, Jazz, absolutely. You need to, you know, be here and move forward, right? And communicate out. And it actually in vocal technique, when you think like that, your technique works better. So I wrote this book. It's a very little book, but just for my friends and stuff, And yeah, it was cool. Um, there's and it goes beyond that. I mean, I just happen to know about those three areas pretty well, um, but I mean, you could apply the same idea to anything, driving a truck or whatever. So yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. You have to become, it's how you handle it. It's how you handle it. That's it. Same, people always say, well, isn't there a mistake that you can make in jazz or scatting or whatever? Yeah, but it's how you handle it actually. If you just get stuck with it, then it looks like egg on your face. But if you use it and go forward, it's miraculous. It's wonderful. And somebody might even notice it. It's like, wow, check out what they did with that, whatever, you know. So, um, do you find yourself giving direction um, uh, if someone's having trouble with their time, like, uh, you know, to do to do what they have to do? Do you find is that a conversation that you have with people?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many choices in the
Yeah,
music business to put your music out, and it's really where you spend your time that you're going to get the most out of it. So I don't, ask up my artists to be on every social media platform and sharing content on every platform. I say pick one, and do it well. And don't, but what's most important, and I think is what most artists don't think about is the importance of connecting with fans and having that ongoing conversation every day, that interaction. So if they write to
yeah,
you, you
yeah.
write back. Um,
Excuse me for 1 second. That was one thing that woman Carla said.
yes,
She was really focused on that. You have to answer. You're
of
creating
course.
these relationships. Yeah,
It's a
sorry.
no, no, it's a back and forth. I mean, she's 100% right.
Yeah,
If they're going to take the time out of their day to connect with you, then it's important that you do the same. And that's how you build the relationship, the fan artist relationship. And I think just setting aside 30 minutes to an hour a day to respond to those people and connect with those people, because they're taking their time out and they love you and they support you. And, it's usually those fans that will go out to other music lovers and sell your music to them.
yeah,
They'll do it better than you could ever do it. Again, getting back to the iPhone and Apple, yeah, Apple had big splashy ad campaigns, but you know who sold their phones? It was people who bought them, that loved
yeah,
them.
yeah,
And that's it, it was that factor of having, the love for the brand. And it's no different than music. I mean, I'm constantly selling music. I share it all the time, introducing new artists. So in a way, I'm pitching, these artists to friends and explaining to them why I love them. And that's why, because I've connected to them over something.
yeah,
Something resonated with me about that artist enough to want to share. I mean, what a
yeah,
powerful thing to think about,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I was just writing this name again. How do you pronounce it?
Oh,
Lofi?
oh yeah, Leifei,
Leifei.
Laufey. Yeah.
Yeah. So Leifei, if you guys missed the beginning of our conversation, we were talking about um, she's Swedish or something?
Icelandic.
Icelandic. Icelandic. Icelandic singer who's rocking the world basically. Yeah. So and she's young and she's beautiful and her parents are both professors of music or something, right? And I mean, I saw her singing kind of a. It was in English, but it was kind of a Brazilian feel, and I mean, very mature singing, really beautiful. Yeah. So yeah. So we talked about it. I mean, I probably would have forgotten her name from my friend showed me about 2 weeks ago, but I didn't remember her name.
They just they sit with her music. Like she has a song. She just dropped a song called "Goddess." It's such a beautiful song. It's like it's a story of how she was dating this guy, and the guy fell in love with the performer side of her, and couldn't connect with the personal side of her. And it's so well written, and it's sort of like a classical and modern day classical anthemic song.
Yeah.
It's very different, and it's just fresh.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so
Um,
rare it's fresh, you know.
would you mind if I actually have to go to the bathroom?
No,
Would you mind if I brought her up while I'm in the bathroom
go ahead.
and
Yeah,
we could watch? Sorry, I know I shouldn't say that exactly, but I am. I'm saying that. So let's see. This is um, Laufey. Oh, and goddess, right? I'll just put goddess. Okay, so I'm just going to play this while I'm gone, and then I'll come back and we'll continue talking.
It always goes like this. Could have predicted it. I'm so naive to think you loved me for me. Kissed as I ran off stage. Too old to play this game. Guess you're still growing up at 30. Oh, were you surprised by me when you took me home? When the glamour wore off, reduced to skin and bone, I can't even tell who you want to know. I'm a goddess on stage, human when we're You took a star to bed, woke up with me instead. You must have felt so damn deceived when you made up a version of me that you thought you loved, but I am not your Aphrodite.
Yeah, that's like a real story, isn't it?
Yeah, she's a great storyteller.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. The song I heard was a little more. It was kind of got a Brazilian type of beat, so it was a little more jazzy. Not that I only listen to jazz, Evan. um, let's see. Well, I'm trying to think of some more pertinent questions. Have we covered everything you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I just, I love just to have a conversation. So
Yeah.
I think talking about music and the music business and being an artist and, you know, yeah, I feel like, it's so easy to get discouraged as an
Yeah.
artist these days. And um, I, it's so important to just kind of, if this is something that you're really passionate about and means that much to you, to kind of to stay the path and not feel like you need to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
Find your, instead of trying to find a throw a blanket over all music fans, find your niche, your micro niche, and start there and grow fans from there, as opposed to um, feel like you need to capture every single music fan. Uh, and same with touring. You tour locally and grow success locally, and then expand. But in everything that you should do, try and do it outside the box. Like when we managed Gavin, uh, we came up with an idea to do a sorority tour. So instead of touring venues, he's a blonde hair surfer, good looking guy.
Hmm.
He came up with this idea to do a acoustic tour with him, and his drummer was on a cajon and the bassist played acoustic bass, and we would just go to sororities. They had their like weekly night where they all got together, and he would play these intimate shows, and he would bring his merch and shirts and his CDs, and he did really really well. And we would capture video and share it on socials, and so it's really sort of an outside the box way of getting to your music to people on a different level. And I think that's important.
That brings to mind Annie DiFrancesco. Was that her name?
Annie DeFranco or
Um, I think that was her name. Can't remember. She was supposed to be on somebody's label. Was it Madonna or somebody? Can't. This was so long ago. Di Francesco. I thought that was her name. Anyway, let me just check on if I have that name right. This is a long time ago. Annie Di Francesco. No, that wasn't her name. She was, um, yeah, that was not her name, which shows you how much I actually knew her. But she was, sh maybe she was supposed to be on Prince's label. Anyway, she just decided to be her own artist. And that's what she did. She just created her own stuff and she got very famous. I mean, obviously I don't remember her name well, but you don't know who I'm talking about, do you?
it could be Annie DeFranco.
Oh, DeFranco.
Yeah.
Is that it? Annie DeFranco. Yeah, it probably was because now she looks a bit older. So yeah, that was probably her. Hmm,
I mean, if your music's good enough, it's gonna resonate.
yeah,
Yeah, you have to trust in your art,
yeah,
trust in the process. And the neat thing about the music business today is you can get out to anyone, anywhere in the world at any time during the day. So I don't like when someone gives me an excuse for not being able to reach out to fans. I disagree because I was working with this platform called Ursa Live, and they live stream. And you could go on there for 60 minutes and play originals and covers and do a Q&A and storytell and connect with people from all over the world. So just because you can't get to Japan and play live in Japan doesn't mean you can't play for a Japanese crowd. Um, it's just there's so many different ways to connect with music lovers from your living room.
Yeah.
That's the positive side. The negative side is what is there like 20,000 songs uploaded to Spotify every day. It's a ton of content. So you really need to do your best to stand out.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
20,000 new content a day, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable. Well, this show actually, like your number 578.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. And
Yeah.
so, a lot of people I knew actually, you know how when you go on Facebook and you look at your friends and you're trying to delete people or something, like that you don't know. I didn't have a lot of people to delete. It was like, I know them. I know them. I know them. I know them. So anyway, a lot of the people I knew, and then a lot of, probably I'd say at least 30% I didn't know before. I would see them on some platform and I'd reach out to them or somebody would refer me. And I was so impressed. I really was. I mean, that may sound like a duh thing, but I was really impressed with how many artists are on the planet really doing stuff. My friend, the other day, I interviewed this wonderful Spanish engineer, and he said, here's a level where the really famous people are,
Mhm.
and where everybody else is here.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, yeah, that's it. So, just, you're in here, so just do your best and work and, you know, that's it, unless you're dying to be super famous, which I tell you the truth, I would rather not be super famous. I don't like the
That's hard.
lifestyle that you have to slip into. But here's what I really would like. I don't know how many artists say this to you. What I would really like is to have the availability of doing festivals and concerts more. Um, that's what I really like to do that because I like that feeling. It's a really nice feeling to be part of something big and also on a stage that's hopefully, got good sound and an audience that's interested. And so I've always said that. That's what I'd like to do more. I think mostly I've done that in Japan because, it's just part of the reality over there. If somebody's helping you and managing you and stuff, they're going to get you into some festivals. But yeah, I mean, and I do love intimate rooms. Yeah. There's nothing like having a beautiful intimate audience of, 40 to 60 people or something. Great. It's beautiful. In Japan, sometimes it's like 20 because they sometimes like what you would consider a small apartment here, like
Right.
real small, is a club there. I mean,
Yeah.
like literally, they put it into the apartment. It's really interesting. One place comes to mind. I'm sure there couldn't be more than 25 people who fit in there. But, it's fun. It's
Why,
great.
why, why do you think the Japanese have a different appreciation for music than, say, we do out here?
Yeah, well, yeah. First of all, to me, I've been going to Japan a long, long time. And I think that the Japanese have an like a life, I mean, ages old appreciation of things artistic. Their sense of the balance that art is within life is more profound. You know, like the tea ceremony, just as an example. It's like, it's not just tea.
Right.
There's a ceremony, there's respect, there's like this long line of giving it respect. And so the art, like, Japan, of course, it has, the creepy people too. Every place does, right? But the artists in Japan are really beautiful. They're very aware, um, creative. Boy, they're super creative. And so jazz, I mean, of course, there was the whole history of after the war, and, they accepted a lot of, um, you know, North American things, and jazz was part of it. But I think part of it is this respect for the feeling and balance that jazz is. Like you can be, I don't know, have you been to Japan?
I have, yeah, yeah.
So can you dig walking through the streets or the train stations? You literally hear Charlie Parker over their PA. I mean, it's not just smooth jazz. It's like Charlie Parker. Not to say that everybody understands that. I mean, to them it might be kind of smooth jazz, music in the background, but somebody said Charlie Parker, we're going to put Charlie Parker in the train station, as you're walking. So, but I think the tea ceremony is a good image to bring up, the bonsai tree, take this amount of garden space and create a world with it. Go ahead. And they do, you know. And so jazz, I think, brings that quality of feeling in. And I think that's why jazz is a popular form in Japan. But of course, it's still the lower percentage of people, you
Right,
know.
right.
But, you know, the cool people, are probably the lower percentage of people too, right?
Do you
I
find
really
it?
like I really like the farmers and the artists, like the on the more of the outskirts, not the Tokyo I mean Osaka's cool, and Kobe, the smaller towns, but Tokyo is like, it's definitely like another planet.
Do
So
you find it hard, like, the state of jazz music in the U.S. and the younger generation? Like, do you feel like it's not resonating with them, and if so, why?
I'm kind of the glass half full person.
Okay.
Um, yeah, of course we can say that young people don't get it, or they're not tuned in. But in fact, there's a lot of young jazz people coming up, and they're digging it because of its freedom and its kind of intelligence, and um, it's kind of the mashup availability. So I actually think that it's a large audience. And there's this group in LA that popped up over the last few years called Jazz is Dead.
Okay.
And there's two men who are, I'm guessing, in their 40s, and they've created this interest. Somehow it's related to a hair cutting huge salon. Don't ask me how. And these two guys, they have a label and a company, and they mash up some old jazz artists with new jazz artists,
Cool.
and they record them, and they also put them on the road, and they pay them well. They put them up well. Crowds are big. I've been to a few of their concerts that I was like, how did they connect with these people? Like Javan, who is one of Brazil's top longtime composers. They brought Javan into one of those old theaters downtown LA, and the place was packed.
Wow.
And a lot of the people probably were Brazilian because they were standing up and singing to every song he was singing. But how did these people, how, I don't even know how they got to where they got, but they did.
Right.
And the people were, yeah, there were some older people, but a lot of younger people, a lot. So I believe that the audiences are there. I really do. And uh, yeah, so it's maybe utilizing people like yourself to get to those younger people. Like I have a project coming out. One of the projects that I'm finishing up right now. It's 9 pieces, and the music is very varied. There's like a Schofield tune, which is kind of edgy jazz. There's Monk. There's Pat Metheny's song. There's Jobim. You know, it's real mixture.
Mhm.
The arrangements are unusual, and the producer and I really feel like this project has a lot of appeal to younger people as well. So yeah, that's like one. That's a project that I'm kind of right on the verge of releasing, and I would like to do the right thing if I can, you know, without driving myself absolutely crazy, you know, because time wise, really, you know, if I had all the time in the world, I'd just do that. But of course, I don't. So, but we're kind of on the verge, and on the one hand, I want to allow what's the universe is going to naturally do. But on the other hand, I want to be aware and see if I can maybe step in and help guide where it goes, you know. But I do, in that's a long answer, sorry, but I do believe a friend of mine opened a club called the Blue Whale. I don't know if you ever heard of that
Yeah,
place.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it closed during the pandemic, but it was around for 10 years.
Right.
And he was a young man, and the Blue Whale was downtown in Japantown, and internationally known and top quality, mostly modern jazz,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and so and it was well attended by young people.
Wow.
Yeah. Of course, this was a little while back, but still, I think it's just actually gone even further for young people. Yeah.
Right.
So that's my long answer. Sorry.
Sorry, just curious.
Yeah. But again, I am the glass half full person, you know. But I do recognize that I do have apathy in certain areas too, you know. And you know, I don't like apathy. I don't, you know, that's not one of my favorite emotions to feel, you know, and I try and get myself out of it whenever it comes up. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, yeah, there's certain areas that I haven't successfully really um, uncovered enough to not be apathetic about it, you know. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely. It's all part of the journey.
Yeah, it's a really interesting journey.
Yeah.
Really interesting. And if you don't think so, I'm afraid you might be dead.
Yeah. Right?
Sorry, anybody listening who feels like that. But really, I mean, it's just, I mean, wow, you just have to look around and you have to make sense somehow of this stuff. Otherwise, you're going to go, as we said, there's no status quo.
Right.
You're either going to go up or down. So, you know, if you don't want to go down and continue going down, you know, you gotta take on the lesson, right?
Yeah, embrace the journey, not the destination.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Is everything.
yeah, yeah. One more question. Like, how did you get this point of view, Evan? Were you born as a seeker?
I wasn't. I was probably pretty immature for most of my earlier life, and took changing careers, losing a job, and a divorce to sort of open up this spiritual lane, and realize the significance of helping people, and putting a lot of weight in that versus chasing money or big career or something. And just it's a constant journey that I'll be on for the rest of my life. And I don't know, it's just a need to help people and feel good about it versus me. And it's I just like I said, I don't think enough people help each other out in the music business.
Yeah,
Just the number one goal of mine,
yeah,
probably my
yeah, yeah. That's why you will like me from now on because I help.
yeah. I mean, you can't like that feeling is amazing. You can't put a price on that feeling. And
Plus,
of
we're all a part of the same cloth. You know,
course,
when I get better, you get better because you know me. When I get worse, you get worse. You
yeah.
know?
And I think it's so important to support each other in the arts.
Yeah,
Um, as like I said, a community. I mean, if you go back to the earliest days of like humans or
yeah,
even Neanderthals, it was all about community. Like,
yeah,
you had kids and their community helped raise those kids.
yeah.
It's not like that anymore.
No, not really. And the idea of competition has been so outweighed, in importance. You know, when I was very young, I mean, well, in my 20s, I had a girlfriend who was the best jazz singer ever, but she did this much for her career, and I was always doing. And she got offers for records and, all kinds of stuff. And it would drive me crazy for a while. And then I suddenly realized, oh, it has nothing to do with what you're looking at. We have different paths. That's it. If I don't have what I want, it's just because I haven't gone down that road.
Of course.
So that's when I really stopped thinking about competition as being important.
Or yeah, the need to compare yourself. I mean, we're all on our own journeys, and you get what you get when the universe is ready to give it to you.
Yeah,
You can't force it.
right.
Because if you force it, it's really not meant to be. And again, it's a mindset of like you know, what is a gift and what isn't a gift.
Yeah,
We talked about earlier. Sometimes failure is even more of a gift than success,
yeah,
and vice versa. Sometimes success is torture and hell. And it's not
yeah.
what you want. Maybe you thought it was what you want, but it isn't. So, yeah, I just I think so much of it is how you perceive.
Yeah, I'm looking. People are making comments, but my Facebook isn't populating. Oh, there we go. Hi, Bev, my darling. Yeah, um, can't be forced. She's a very empathetic person. um, yeah. Well, it's been just about 2 hours, unbelievably, and we didn't even really like show music videos or anything. So that I usually show a few of those. But anyway, it's been really a high pleasure for me, and I'm going to call you. And I'm interested in talking with you, especially at this moment. Like I said, with my no net coming out, and I've been, you know, looking around and thinking about how to go about it and who to help me, because I know that's not my area of expertise. So, as they say, it takes a tribe, and you get people who are good at what they do, that you're not good at what you do. So, yeah, Bev, you can join too. Why not? So, yeah, and then for those of you listening, I think I want Evan to do a workshop too, which should be really interesting. Um, and yeah, so we'll have to do that maybe when I come back from Japan. I'll be back in early June, and
I love it.
I would like to do that. Um, so before I leave, just gonna say that yeah, I am gonna do one more person. Yeah, before I leave for Japan. That's next Monday, and it's a Brazilian drummer named Tata Batera, and she's actually coming over here. We're gonna do every now and then. I have people come here, or they want to come, so they feel better about that. And she's a fabulous drummer. She's from Brazil, and she moved here about 2 years ago, I think. Really, really good drummer. So she's gonna be there. And for those of you in LA, tomorrow night, Tuesday night, I'm doing a free concert of the music from one of my earlier records called Secret Life, which, if anything was going to be licensed material, Evan, I think this project would be. It's kind of, I call it alternative jazz. But it's, yeah, for some of you have seen this project about a month and a half ago at Kulak's Woodshed. And I just had a great time performing this old material from 20 years ago, really, with great band in a new moment of time. So we're going to do that again, and that's going to be at St. Bees Church in Eagle Rock at 8 o'clock. So anybody who wants to come out, free concert upstairs this time at St. Bees in Eagle Rock. Yeah, Evan, it was a real pleasure speaking with you.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed speaking with you as well.
Thank you. And I will be calling you.
Cool.
Okay, everybody take care and see you in a minute. Bye.